What's in a question? Maybe just about everything important. A smart and sharp question should strike up a more engaging conversation. So let's have ourselves a little discussion about not getting married. Diane joins us in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning, Lena. Love the intro.
Although it's kind of misleading, isn't it? Because more people are opting to not. How was your weekend, Diane?
It was good. I visited my parents in the countryside.
Yeah.
It was very peaceful and very quiet.
Was it hot over there too?
It was slightly lower than Seoul, central Seoul, but then it was still hot in the afternoon when the sun strikes you.
So it's unavoidable.
Right.
But at least you had a lovely weekend with your parents.
Yeah. How was yours? Relaxing?
Relaxing. I achieved nothing, but I kind of like that because I'm now all rested and ready to do this all over.
Well, that's good.
Okay, let's jump into
So it's a good week.
It's a good week.
Right.
Start of a good day as well. Let's provide our question once more for our listeners.
Right. So question, is marriage necessary? The big question. And this is a question that the young generations have been asking recently as people begin to rethink gender roles and the purpose of marriage or family.
Okay, so it's a conversation topic that probably won't see the end of day ever, but it is worth discussing because I think it has important economic implications, for example.
Right.
This is apparently based on another recent research.
So Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs has announced its latest research called Gender Role Values and Attitudes Towards Marriage and Children. The percentage of men and women who agree with the stereotype that husbands should go out and earn money and wives should take care of housework has decreased according to the research.
Where more women stay in school, stay in workforce, that changes the landscape entirely.
Right.
And when compared to the same research conducted just a few years back, this year's results show that people's values and perspectives have changed.
Right. So previously, with the same question in 2015 and 2018, a survey was conducted on married women aged 15 to 49 and unmarried men and women aged 20 to 44. I don't know why, but they excluded married men in the survey. So married women showed a trend of decreasing consent rates to the saying that men should go out to earn money and wives should take care of the housework. But unmarried men and women had lower consent rates in 2018 than 2015, then increased again. However, unmarried women showed a tendency to deviate more from the existing values than single men, as only 12% of women agreed with the old stereotype of gender roles, whereas more than 17% of single men agreed.
But I've got to say, 70% for even single men, that is minuscule compared to a few years back, right? But of course, it's about women's economic prowess, so then we'd have more to say about it. Because of this changed perspective, people's thoughts on marriage itself have also changed.
So as a result of surveying the attitudes towards marriage, more than 50% of men showed a positive attitude, with 12% saying you must get married.
You
must get married, and 44% saying it's better to get married. However, for women, it only stayed at around 36%, with about only 5% saying marriage is a must, and about 31% saying it's beneficial.
Okay.
The percentage of single men who think it's better not to get married has risen to 4% in 2015, to 6.6% in 2018, and 6.8% in 2021. For unmarried women, the number fluctuated from 6% to 14% and down to 11%, but it was higher than that of unmarried men anyway.
So it seems that the people, both men and women, single, think increasingly it's better not to get married than to get married. People's perspectives on having children, I guess, subsequently changes as well.
Of course. As for the attitude towards the need for children, 71% of men and 64% of women thought it would be better to have children. And the younger the age group, the higher the consent rate to a sentence, it doesn't matter if you don't have children. So compared with 2015 and 2018, the consent rates for both single men and single women rose sharply, 17% to 40% for men and 30% to over 50% for women. So more people are not seeing the need to have children or a child.
Okay, here's the thing. When it's a conversation just about you and me and my friends and my colleagues and them wanting to protect a certain lifestyle, it's respected. But I think from a bigger macro perspective, it does concern governments,
of course,
regulation makers. lawmakers, for example, low marriage and birth rate will lead to smaller households. That would affect the future outlook of South Korea.
Right. According to Statistics Korea, due to the decrease in marriage and birth rate, the number of single-person households and two-person households living alone is expected to increase in 30 years, while the number of households with 3 to 4 members consisting of a couple and a child or children is expected to decrease.
The workforce for South Korea's future looking bleak again.
Right.
So what do the households look like right now?
According to the government's data, in 2020, single-person households accounted for about 31%, which is slightly below 6.5 million households of the total, followed by two-person households taking up about 28% or 5.8 million, three-person households taking up about 20%, which is about 4.2 million, and four-person households followed with about 16% take, which is about 3.3 million households.
So even right now, as we speak, the four-person household was the smallest group among the entire population.
Right.
It's more likely that there's a three-people household or a single or just a couple.
Right.
And this is all about to shrink further too.
So after 30 years, the proportion of households with one or two members will increase, and the proportion of households with three or more will decrease.
Even further.
Right. On a yearly average, the number of single or two-person households increases by over 80,000 households. However, it's the opposite for when it comes to bigger households. The number of households with three members will decrease by 14,000. This number gets bigger for households with four members, as 62,000 households would decrease, and the number of households with five or more members decreases by 22,000 households.
Okay.
So accordingly, the proportion of single-person households will increase to 40% by 2050, and the number of households will increase to 9.05 million households. The number of two-person households will increase to 36%, with about 8.3 million households. That means combining single-person and two-person households together would account for about 76% of the total households.
When you look at it like that, right? Of course, if it is about pursuit of happiness and quality of life, yes, but from a macro level, who's going to work? I don't know, the banks, the restaurants,
Right.
the cafes, and so on forth. On top of that, as we talked about in our previous question unboxing segments, most of the population is expected to be people aged 65 or older.
Exactly. By 2050, 4 out of 10 households will become single-person households, like I mentioned before. However, the main characteristics of single-person households are expected to change somewhat within the aging population. So in 2020, among single-person households, those in their 20s accounted for the most at around 20%, and those in their 30s accounted next with 17%. 50s and 60s took 16% respectively. 40s took 14%, and 70s took 11%.
Okay.
However, by 2050, 25% or more, or 2.22 million households aged 80 or older, will account for the largest proportion of single-person households. So those in their 70s will also increase to 18%. The number of single-person households in their 20s will decrease to 7%, or 620,000 households. So it gets really small.
I was going to say.
Right. And the number of single-person households in their 30s will also decrease to 12%.
Again, who's going to work? And
Right.
the thing about having these active 20s and those in their 30s is they are the biggest spenders.
Right.
They earn the most amount of money. They pay the most amount of taxes. They work. They're in their primes.
Right.
Like, this all results in a healthy economy usually. And we don't really necessarily at this point have a backup plan for this quickly aging society.
Exactly.
Let's compare to other countries because we're not alone. When a developed economy faces a decreasing workforce and aging society, this is kind of a natural course.
Right.
Are they experiencing similar changes like we are?
Yeah, compared with other countries as of 2040, the proportion of single-person households in Korea is expected to be lower than that of Germany and Japan, and higher than that of UK, Australia, and Canada. So in 2040, the proportion of single-person households in Korea, I said, is about 38%. And compared to our country, Germany and Japan goes beyond and higher with 45% for Germany and about 40% for Japan.
And Japan is always an important marker for us, right? And we are always considering that, are we headed in that direction too? Then how do we better prepare? And it seems that Germany is not faring so well when it comes to the increasing amount of single-person households.
Exactly. On the other hand, the UK is expected to be around 33%, Australia at 27%, and Canada at around 30%, New Zealand at 21%, which is lower than South Korea, it seems.
So the experts are saying that the government should provide policies according to the changing circumstances. Slowing it down is just not working. From what I understand, we've had similar regulations, perks for people to get married, to relocate to certain neighborhoods. If it's not working out, then we need different kinds of interventions, don't we?
Right. So as the types of single-person households become more diverse, experts agreed that support measures should be tailored to each of its own.
Okay.
Professor Chung Ik-jung of the Department of Social Welfare at Ewha Women's University said, not all single-person households are the same, and there are various characteristics depending on generations and gender. However, support for the middle-aged is still lacking in South Korea.
Good point.
So he added support is mainly focused on the economic aspect, but psycho-emotional support, such as setting up a place for a group of people to gather like a social group, is essential to relieving the feeling of social isolation or alienation in those middle-aged group of people.
You know, I do feel slightly guilty because our entire segment was about the economic angle, right? But you're right. It is about social structure, and in our sunset years, will we have a support system? Will we have support groups? And when we retire, where do we hang out with our former colleagues and so on forward? So it is about these kind of changes being implemented together, hand in hand. Why do I have a feeling this is not the end of the discussion?
Probably it's going to come back next.
In the next few weeks, because there is no solution in sight, but it's worth a discussion. Thank you so much, Diane. We'll see you again tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow.
We have our sports segment with Danielle coming up next.